Hi guys, Mike here. So this is my first book review. I'm doing it over the Bloody Crown of Conan. This is a collection of 3 novelettes written by Robert E. Howard. It contains The People of the Black Circle, The Hour of the Dragon, and The Story of Which Shall Be Born. Guys, these stories are awesome. Like, I cannot stress it enough. They're filled with action-packed moments, freaking sword battles out the wazoo, creepy magic. I mean, it's almost like anything you would want out of a fantasy story. And of course, though, they do come with problems, which is why we're here. So the first story is The People of the Black Circle. Here, Conan ends up helping out a princess whose brother was murdered by this shadowy sorcerer organization. It's probably the second best story in the collection. There's a lot more consistency to it, I guess you could say, in terms of it being cohesive. It feels like it's going from like one step to another, I guess, to describe it. Essentially, God, it's so hard to get across. It basically, the story doesn't feel chopped up or like there's huge chunks of it missing. It really does feel like Conan's just going day from day, like fending off like hordes of enemies, trying to stay away. And I think Howard really kept that pace up within the story here. I will say, though, that of the magic that's used, that one's probably the best story, followed by the second one, The Hour of the Dragon, in terms of its magic use. This is a very soft magic system, and the magic is supposed to be creepy. It's not supposed to be bright and flowery. It's not supposed to be fireballs and weird, incantations and stuff. It's literally like creepy, soft magic where people are summoning shit and monsters are coming out on the wazoo that Conan's having to fight. So yeah, the first story I would have to give is like probably like a 4 out of 5 here. It's a good story. It's decent. It's not bad. The next story is Hour of the Dragon. This is by far the best story in this collection, in my opinion. It has everything the People of the Black Circle has, which is magic, the constant enemies and stuff like that, having to always have a goal, he has this goal of recapturing a kingdom that's basically taken from him. In this story, an evil sorcerer is revived by enemies of I'm butchering the name, Aquilonia, which is where Conan rules. They are planning on taking him off the throne, which they successfully do, and implant a basically puppet ruler who has some claim to the throne through like blood ties and stuff like that. And so the whole story is him trying to reclaim his throne. Is awesome. I just cannot keep saying that enough. The action sequences, and this goes for all 3 stories, are well written. You feel the energy that's just radiating off the words here. And you're just like, I was just captured by them, man. I cannot recommend these stories enough. I'm going too far ahead here. The Hour of the Dragon, though, has a couple moments in it that the People of the Black Circle doesn't. Like I said, the People of the Black Circle's very consistent in showing you, like, this is the day-by-day of Conan's, like, crap fest that he's having to go through. In Hour of the Dragon, there are, like, chunks missing in certain parts, and it's because they have to fast-forward time to show you the stakes of the story. But there is a lot of that. Him trying to escape, having to go to places. The only thing I think I did not really like that much is he has to search for this object within the story. And it's basically like one long tangent that he has to do in order to basically complete the main objective, which is recapture his kingdom. It's fine, but it feels more like a treasure hunt in a way. And it alludes to some of his past history as well. For those who don't know, Conan is a short story character. That's kind of where he originated from the pulp magazines of I think it was the 1930s. And so he's had like so many different professions that he's done over the course of his lifetime, whether it was a thief, a pirate, a mercenary, leaders of tribes, and basically Howard's version of the Middle East. I mean, he's done it all almost. He's an adventurer, and so you do get a touch of that within this story here, and I think that works well for it. And then there's the witch, A Witch Shall Be Born. This is by far the shortest story in the collection, and it is also by far the worst in my opinion. Here's why. In this one, Conan basically takes a backseat. The other two stories, he's front and center. The story is basically about him and having to deal with a bunch of nonsense. Here, he's kicked out for most of the story, and we get a lot of the story through the viewpoint of a character by the name, I think his name's Valerius. The plot of the story is basically a queen's basically long thought dead twin sister comes back and steals the throne from her. She basically becomes a usurper. She has magical powers and stuff like that. The reason I say this is the worst one is because really I just felt like compared to the other two stories, there wasn't that much action. The magic was minimal, and it's pretty much just descriptions of people basically having to go through hell underneath the leadership of the sister here who takes over. Conan ends up joining like a band of people that he uses to basically raise an army, and most of that takes place off screen, of course, because it's only like I think 50 pages long, and a lot of the story, like I said, is told from the viewpoint of Valerius. So I mean, if I had to rank these stories in order of which ones like was the best, Hour of the Dragon, People of the Black Circle, and A Witch Shall Be Born. Hour of the Dragon kind of has some of the same problems that A Witch Shall Be Born has, but it's primarily from his point of view. There's only one snippet of it where it's from a different perspective, really, that is kind of just telling you what's all going on. In A Witch Shall Be Born, it's like two large sections of the story, and that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It's a Conan story. It's not a Valerius story. It's not a Guard story. It's a Conan story. But, I mean, if you like it, you like it if it's your cup of tea. People of the Black Circle and Hour of the Dragon just happen to be mine. Now, there is extra content in the book. Once all three stories are done, you have access to rough drafts, synopsises, and stuff like that. I think even outline is in here if I'm correct here. I could be wrong. I'm not seeing it, so I'm going to say no. But he has notes and stuff like that he writes. It's really interesting because if you're a writer, you have to kind of see the writing perspective of Robert E. Howard rather than just the prose. You have to see some of the work that went into these stories, and that's, I think, phenomenal. However, I keep this in mind. I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook could easily probably cut off like a couple hours because it includes that content. So instead of cutting that content and just keeping the stories, you do get the content, and it's really weird because if you're reading it in the book format, you know, it's understandable. If you're just listening to it, though, it cuts off at weird points because they're drafts and outlines and notes, So, I mean, overall, though, in terms of the three stories, really good. There is some stuff that I think should be mentioned. These stories were written in the 30s. It's apparent that there's going to be racism in them. It's kind of unavoidable. Certain things. So, for example, he has the Stygians, who I think pretty much feel like a placeholder for ancient Egyptians. And they're really like described as these like super authoritarian sorcerer people who like have everyone underneath their heel, and they're just described almost as monsters. Again, that part of Hour of the Dragon, really cool, but it was like kind of cringeworthy for me to like have to listen to that. It doesn't bother me as much anymore. I kind of put that aside, but it's basically a side note for anyone who's picking up this story and just, they don't want to read through that, so that's where that's at, Overall, though, I would say the Bloody Crown of Conan is worth a buy. I picked it up on Amazon for a good price. I'm forgetting right now. I'd have to look it up again, but this is actually part of a series that the publisher Del Rey has done, where they've released Robert E. Howard's work, basically unblemished. By that I mean unedited or changed by anybody. It is his original works as published in the pulp magazines in publishing order. I think the first set of stories is, oh Lord, it's in here. It's the Coming of Conan the Cimmerian, which is the collection of the short stories of Conan. Really great too. I'll probably have a review up of that at some point. Of course, this one here, and then The Conquering Sword of Conan, which I think just finishes out the short stories and random stuff. They've also collected his other stories, such as Savage Tales of Solomon Kane, which is really good, Bran Macmore and The Last King, which I liked, and a couple other stuff that he wrote as well. They're really good collections. They're filled with artwork that is usually superb. I would say this one has really decent artwork in it. I just feel like you cannot go wrong with this here. It's action fun. It's like watching Die Hard. You're in it for entertainment purposes. That's what Robert E. Howard was trying to do. He wasn't trying to, I feel like, instill some super deep philosophical messaging like, a lot of books do today, or a lot of books do today. He's really just trying to entertain you. It really comes across, and all three stories, I think, can be entertaining to people. Again, I didn't find A Witch Shall Be Born as entertaining as the People of the Black Circle, The Hour of the Dragon. Again, just me. I'm going to give this book a 4.5 out of 5. I really liked it. It has artwork in it. And not just artwork, it's really good artwork in my opinion. 3 good stories that you're going to get, and if you're a writer, you're going to basically be able to see the mind of Robert E. Howard as he was writing these stories. So I hope you guys have a good day or night, depending on when you watch this video. Please consider leaving a like and hit the subscribe button. I am going to try to build this channel, and hopefully my mic skills get a lot better. The secondary thing too is I'm going to put a link up for my Patreon. You don't have to do it, but if you do it, I'm not asking for much. It is literally $1 for the Patreon account, and what you're going to get is you're going to get random blog posts from me, but primarily it's going to be where I put up my own short stories. I'll probably be doing an audio version of the short story as well for YouTube, and obviously putting that up here. I apologize for the shoddy work in terms of, my voice and stuff like that. This is my first YouTube video, and I have anxiety. I just want to explain that right now. And so I just said, what the hell? Sat down, did the review. I'm going to be reviewing the collection for Elric of Melniboné next, and that'll be up probably on the weekend. So again, hope you guys have a good night or a good day, and goodbye.